Every minute, hundreds of items are sold online, and the majority of these products are subpar. We need to empower doers with superior brain and body nutrition in modern society. You have an opportunity to set yourself apart from your competition, persuade them to buy your goods, and convert them into devoted consumers. Tune in to the Dominate Your Market podcast as Will Nitze shares his mission of empowering doers through better nutrition. How your business should focus on branding and understanding your niche, what customers want and need, and how you can connect with them.
I want to welcome you to the Dominate Your Market podcast, where we interview leaders, CEOs, founders, and high-impact business development professionals to get their insights on how you can grow your business efficiently and build an amazing company. Today's guest has a very unique product and company. Will Nitze is the founder and CEO of IQBAR, a leading brain and body nutrition company based in Boston. IQBAR products are sold in 8,000 retailers across the US and have a large and growing presence on all major e-commerce platforms. They're on a mission to empower doers with a superior brain and body nutrition. IQBAR plant protein bars and IQ Mix hydration sticks are packed with functional compounds to help you win your day. Hey, Will, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is pretty awesome. Because I'm a health nut, someone had told me about IQBAR, and of course, immediately I hit the internet and researched it and was like, okay, there's a gazillion bars out there. What makes them different? Should I give them a try? I eat bars already. And should I add them to the mix? And I will have to say it's now in my pantry.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, and my favorite is chocolate sea salt plant-based protein bar. So that's the winner for me.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very happy to have that in there. And, as I get older, the brain is kind of an important thing, right? I mean, I just turned 59 about, 4 weeks ago. And so, it's the brain is something that, obviously as you get older, you worry about, the dementia, Alzheimer's and all of those things. And, for me, I'm a freak about all that. So, when I came across your bar, I thought, this is pretty sweet. So, for our listeners, give a little background on yourself and let us know how you kind of got into IQBAR and why you launched it.
Sure. Yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life in college. I really fell in love with psychology and neuroscience as an undergrad. I didn't enjoy any other subjects I studied, but I also didn't want to become a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And I was also super fascinated with business, and startups had fully become cool. Startups and entrepreneurship had become cool at that time. So I was really into startups and as well. And so I was trying to cobble all that together into a job, but it didn't really map well to any particular job. So just kind of by default, I took a job in software. I was selling and marketing operations and supply chain software to predominantly oil and gas companies. So this is right out of school. So I was flying to Houston and pitching like $200,000 software packages to Chevron or whatever, which was a great first job. I learned a ton, but was not all that passionate about oil and gas or software. And I'd always loved physical goods, tangible products. And I read a couple books that totally created light bulb moments in my head for me. So one of them was Mission in a Bottle, which is a book by these two guys, Seth Goldman and Barry Nailbuff, who are the guys who started Honest Tea. And I just really related to Seth in particular. He went to Harvard undergrad and studied government. I went to Harvard undergrad and studied government. He took a job in consulting right out of school and wasn't really all that passionate about it. And I wasn't all that passionate about what I was doing. And there's just a lot of parallels. And anyway, he started this iced tea company out of nowhere. And then in the book, he walks through all the trials and tribulations of, doing that. And then ultimately they had this successful exit. They sold to Coca-Cola. And so I just fell in love with that just path. And again, I related so much to Seth. And then I read another book called Grain Brain by a guy named David Perlmutter, Dr. David Perlmutter. And that blew my mind in another way, which was basically he was looking at the intersection of nutrition and cognition, both from a short-term standpoint. So, the thing I ate at lunch impacts how my brain works at 3 p.m., but also the thing I ate for lunch 30, 40 years in a row impacts what happens to the structural integrity of my brain more broadly, and whether I get Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or, garden variety cognitive decline. And that was fascinating to me. So anyway, and then those two things combined with the fact that I didn't really love my job, and I wanted to set out on my own and do my own thing too. So all those things kind of combined, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start a brain food company. And does that exist in the market? No, great. Let's do it. So happy to get into what that actually looked like over the first few years, or to go in whatever direction, but that's the genesis of it all.
So, and when did you found the company? How long has it been?
So we started with a Kickstarter, which is December 17 through Jan 18. And then we delivered our first unit from that Kickstarter in mid 2018. So we've been selling product since mid 2018.
Gotcha. Well, and so Kickstarter was your just testing grounds.
Basically, yeah. The goal for that was twofold. Number one was, being a testing ground. Does the market actually want this thing? Because there wasn't really any data on it, on brain food, quote unquote. So does the market want it? And then number two, solving a chicken or egg problem around valuation. So I knew I would have to raise a bit of money to get this thing off the ground, but I didn't have any sales to justify a decent valuation to not, get absolutely hosed on selling a big chunk of the company for very little. So Kickstarter was that helped solve that chicken or egg problem. It helped us get sales before we had to spend the money to make the product to then deliver on those sales. In other words, pre-orders, helped us aggregate pre-orders. And then we did really well. And then that helped us justify a decent valuation and go raise money and kick things off more broadly.
So would you say for anybody considering starting a business, and I know you're in the food industry, but that Kickstarter, to me, that's critical, right? Does the market even want it? Are they willing to spend money on it? Would you give that as a tip right there, just for people to, depending on what they're getting into, obviously, whether it's software, physical products, services, whatever, but would you recommend something like that at the very beginning?
I think it depends. Depends on who you are, how many resources you have. There's so many different ways to skin the cat on, starting a consumer goods company. If you have no money and you were kind of in the position I was in, yes, I think it's a great path. People want to see early and emphatic wins. That's what gets investors excited, at least. And not to say you have to be a super high growth, hard charging startup. That was just what I was interested in doing. I wanted to, sprint off the starting block quickly and grow as fast as I could. I wasn't really interested in, let's sell to the bodega down the street, and then let's sell to 3 other bodegas, and then kind of grow that concentric circle. And 20 years later, we have a pretty nice business. I was like, how do I scale this to all 50 states in the first year?
I love that.
So from that standpoint, I think I have no idea how vibrant the platform is now. Of course, it's 4 years, almost 5 years later.
Yeah, that's interesting though, because the reason why I asked that is way back in the day, I launched the world's first golf fitness membership website. That's a long phrase here, but so my two passions, I was a private fitness trainer for 20 years. And then I picked up the game of golf and became just rabid at it, just a fanatic. And I met a gentleman who launched literally online fitness programs. There's millions of them now. Well, the gentleman I met back in 1999 had launched the very first fitness online membership website. It was really cool. He was 23 years old, making $2.5 million a year at the age of 23 back in 1999. Anyways, he helped me launch it. Long story short, I didn't really research the market, because if you go to are you a golfer at all?
A bad golfer, but yeah, I play golf.
So if you go to the range, right, and if you just look down the range, and let's just say men, what do those men typically look like physically on that range? Typically,
not that fit.
you're being very kind, very kind. Well, so there you go, right? So I was selling a fitness product to people that really had no interest in fitness, but because I'm a pit bull, I took it to 7 figures in 3 years by myself. So that's a whole nother story, but I just didn't let up, basically. And I was doing online videos and doing all this online marketing. I had 95,000 subscribers to my email list way back in the day. So I built this mammoth of a website. Anyways, circling back to what you said, finding out, does the market want this thing, right? That's huge. And I think a lot of people have this passion for something, and they might ask some family members, hey, Susie, John, what do you think? Oh, I think it's amazing. Go for it, right? And then you launch it and maybe put some money into this thing and some time and find out the market doesn't want it. So I think that's like step one, don't you think?
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say necessarily, I mean, there's like this trope, which is true, which is you set out to sell A and then people buy it because of B, C, and D. And then, you micro pivot 10 different times. And then so it's not even necessarily that you put something out and the market doesn't want it, you give up. It's the market might want some aspect of it.
Yes.
And then you pivot. So it's sort of just like throwing crap at the wall and seeing what sticks to a degree, which, by the way, was the case with us. So like, the market doesn't really want brain food, let's say. No one goes into a Sprouts and says, oh, I'm going to go on my shopping list is brain food. That never happened ever. So what do they say? Well, they might say, I want a protein bar. Maybe they want a plant protein bar. And then maybe they'd like that to be low sugar. Those are the kind of things people think about with that category. And then different categories, different things. For something to put in their coffee, maybe they look for dairy or almond milk or whatever, and they have certain attributions that they're looking for in that category. But in bars, it's like protein, source of protein, sugar, and how clean's the label, among a few other things. But so you have to meet people where they are and win on things people care about in your category first, and then you get the the privilege of pitching them on some of the more nuanced stuff. So there's just so many learnings. Like as we got feedback, another cool thing about Kickstarter is you get a bunch of feedback, and just selling online more broadly. People will tell you what they think, and you can again micro pivot consistently till you get that holy grail of product market fit. But it's just like and by the way, we're still doing, we still make micro pivots to this day. We're still trying to, that whole existential thing of who are you, why are you special, why do people buy you, what's your reason for being? We still try to figure that out, and we're coming up on 5 years in.
Well, what's interesting, what you talk about right there is I'm a huge fan of consumer psychology. Why do consumers buy, right? And so you said a couple of things very important. Well, people are looking for protein bars. They're looking for low sugar. They're looking for these things. Let's kind of give them that, and that puts you in that sector. And all of a sudden now they see this IQBAR for brain. I'm like, well, wait a minute, protein, low sugar, but this also is good for my brain. That's interesting. So I like how you did that, right? I think a lot of people, if you don't think about what the consumer really wants, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right?
Yeah, it's like a waterfall, right? What do they start with for that category? Like, in considering that category, where they start with, and what, by the way, what they start with might be like literally what do they type into a search bar?
Yep.
Or in a store, it could be, they ask, hey, where's the fill in the blanks? So you just, if you don't start with that, start with where they're at. It can be done, like but you're going to spend millions and millions of dollars on consumer education, and it's just not the path I would go.
Well, and like you guys said, you're still doing many pivots. Well, I think I don't know if you guys are doing this, but if you reach out to your current customer base, what is it? What made you buy it? What do you want? What else do you want? What's important to you? All those different things, right? Like go in there on a constant basis and survey them, interview them to get their mind on, well, what's really cool is I like this, but what would be awesome would be this. And whether you can put that in the bar or pivot again or whatever, I think a lot of businesses out there ignore what's sitting right in front of them, which is their consumers and the psychology in their brain, brain, of why they make a purchase. And I think so many companies, they're so, we provide X. Well, and then I talk to a lot of my clients, and I always say this, not so much with a food product like yours, but sell the outcome, don't sell your product. Sell the outcome, right? Sell the solution, don't sell the product.
Yeah, it's so funny. That's such a tricky one in bars. Like, it's so category specific. Like selling a running shoe, sell the outcome, don't sell the product. Because running shoes are relatively commoditized, and me buying a Nike versus an Adidas versus a Reebok is not all that functionally different.
Right.
And things like that skew towards sell the outcome. It's interesting though, with like bars, you have to be careful about sell the outcome because people are so particular and meticulous about the product. So if you sell the outcome too much, you run the risk of being vague and not hitting on, like, these people are like bar consumers are nutrition label junkies.
Oh boy, I read every label. Yeah.
And so it's like, if you it's it's a really delicate balance of like, hey, we help you win your day, right? That's cool. It's inspirational. I want to win my day, but you only have so much time to tell them what's in the product and why the product's different, which will get a little bit nitty gritty. So it's a very difficult balance depending on the category, and depending on how meticulous is your particular consumer.
Well, and I think messaging is important too, right? Because brand messaging is right up front. It's right away. Like whether it's on a website or it's on your actual product, that can get people's attention. And people will give you 3 or 5 seconds of their attention, and that's it. So if you can grab them in 5 seconds and get them going, what's it? IQBAR? What is this? What do these guys do? Right? If you can grab them, then at least you got a chance to educate them a little bit. And if you educate them, if they're willing to dig a little deeper and spend 30 seconds. So now you got them from 5 seconds to 30 seconds. Now maybe they could watch a 30-second video. They could read a little bit more information of why your bar, why they should consider getting your bar.
And by the way, it's different. Like CPG brands, consumer good brands now today kind of need to be omni-channel to truly scale. Yep. Meaning you need a D2C website, you need an Amazon presence, you need to be in brick and mortar. And really the way you massively scale is brick and mortar, at least in food and beverage. People still go to grocery stores to buy stuff. Brick
and mortar.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
There is no online equivalent of Costco. So you have to have dynamic messaging too. You have to be able to message, because the consumer psychology, not to mention that the customer demographic is different.
Yep.
But also the occasion is different and the way they interact with the products is different. Walking through an aisle versus scanning on an Amazon page of thumbnails. And so you have to have dynamic messaging that, because what you just described of like, now you take 30 seconds, then you watch a video, right? That doesn't exist in a store. It exists online, not a store. So nope. What's the analog of that in a store? Maybe there isn't an analog. Maybe that just doesn't exist. So how do we still get them to pick that thing up and put it in their car? And so you have to master it in multiple occasions. And even within brick and mortar, the way someone puts it in the cart on Costco is different than the person in Whole Foods. So you have to have like 6, 7 different schemas of messaging that based on all your omni-channel kind of nodes, which makes it very, very difficult.
Yeah, but I think what you guys did brilliantly is the name of your company, the name of the bar, IQBAR, right? Like that really, to me, as a marketing and branding guy, that really stands out to me. IQBAR, what is that? Like, so right away, for me, you're creating curiosity. And a lot of people, I think a lot of people do care about their brains. Let's be real here. I mean, if you don't, that's kind of a scary thought. But so IQBAR is pretty, like to me, if I saw that on a shelf, if I'm looking at my regular protein bars, because I'll go right to, and I'm not going to say brands because I'm not getting paid to say brands, but if I go to the ones that I buy, boom, but all of a sudden I look up to the next shelf up and I see IQBAR, I'm like, what is that? And right away, I'm going to grab it. And then of course, like you said, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to flip it around and look at the ingredients and all of that. And if you got me, I'll buy a bar. I'll try a bar. And then if the bar tastes good, right? Because obviously taste is a big deal. I mean,
Critical.
You can't eat a bar of chalk. So, and your guys' taste is awesome. So again, you win there too. So you're branding with your name, and the taste of the bar for me is just no brainer. It was done right there.
That's cool. That's cool. And but now here's where it gets tricky, because you're a fairly quite sophisticated guy, right? You read labels and you care about your brain. And now the question is, how do I win with you and the person who does it, who's maybe less discerning about those kind of things? I mean, the best customer research exercise I've ever done is we did this roadshow at Costco in Southern California. And we must have talked to like 10,000 people.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It was crazy. And I mean, you would hear the pattern recognition was really cool. And you talk to older people, younger people, kids. I mean, kids drive so much of what parents put in the cart. And just anyway, it was, and it's like, how do you hit on really simple, clear messaging that people actually care about and shop based on? And again, 3 to 5 seconds. So the hardest thing is, how do I win with you and all those people? Which again, it's, I don't have the perfect answer, but
but would you say, so you did something that was really cool, and being a younger guy, I'm very impressed. But you went to Costco, and you spent probably hundreds of hours. I don't know how long you were there and all that, but you got in I call it getting in the trenches. You got in the trenches in the store and started talking to people. Like, that is literally the best input you could get, bar none, right? And especially rapid, because would you say that getting into a place like, are you guys continuing to do that? Do you guys get into stores?
Well, so it was kind of a test, and we did really well. So I think we'll, fingers crossed, be sold in the Southern California Costco region.
Right on.
But yeah, like, I think you have to be in the trenches. And you have to talk to people. I mean, online surveys are great too. But you don't get like the back and forth in the secondary and tertiary questions. Someone would say, well, I care about this. And you'd say, oh yeah, like, well, cool. Then what brands do you like? Or why do you care about that? And yada, yada. And I don't know. I think it's also a hell of a lot cheaper than spending like $100,000 on some research survey and a bunch of focus groups and all that. And so yeah, it was cool. It was the first time I had done that, and it was, I don't know if it was 100 hours, but it was probably 60, 70 hours of customer research.
But just critical input, right? I mean, that's awesome. Okay. If you could go back and start again, is there anything you would do different? What would you do different?
It's tricky. I would say I would delegate more, but I think we actually did a lot right in retrospect. We've been extremely lean and maintained an extremely low SG&A relative to our sales, which is why I think we're an attractive company to invest in or acquire or just be in a market that prioritizes turning a profit. But it's extremely hard. And it means that I do so much, and delegation is, incredibly tough for an entrepreneur because you're a control freak around everything.
Yeah.
So I think I would have hired like a head of product sooner, probably. I think, I don't know, it's everything that I think I could do better, generally speaking, lives in the world of human capital, team building, choosing the right people, motivating them in the right way. It's all like this, I guess if you would call that soft skill stuff, more so than like the technical or hard skill stuff. Because I think we actually did that stuff quite well. It's people is the hardest part of the game, in my experience.
Would you say with the Great Resignation and even quiet quitting, right? That's another one of the buzz phrases out there right now. Quiet quitting and the Great Resignation. Have you done a good job of like combating that, like retaining employees and all the things that are important to employees, like feeling valued, feeling heard? Because when you read about the Great Resignation, it's not just the money, and really, for a lot of them, it wasn't the money. It was it was not feeling valued, not feeling heard, all those things. I mean, would you say that with the Great Resignation happening fairly recently and still kind of going on, would you guys say that you've made a real concerted effort in that part of your company, your business?
I think so. You can always do better, but I think so. I think it's like, you got to figure out, what do people care about? So for instance, we had an office, then COVID hit and we didn't. And then it's like, okay, well, hey guys, do you want an office? Do you want to be in an office? And most people don't. So great. Like, you're remote now. You wanted to be remote, you're remote. Great. That's something you care about. You are now remote.
Cool.
Like, I think one big thing is like autonomy. Do you have someone micromanaging you? Do you have free reign to kind of like go in directions you want to go? That in and of itself, I think people appreciate a lot. And is helpful too, because it's like, if you hire people who can be autonomous, you need less people. You don't need bloated middle management, bureaucratic structures. So it's kind of like a win-win there. But like we're still so small. We have 6 office employees, so it's not, and we're constantly resource constrained. So it's like, we're not going to be, there's no playing ping pong and foosball and beer on tap. So it's like, what levers can you pull to keep people engaged and motivated? You're also part of a startup, and you're part of that dream of, how do we get to that, epic end point, which has financial implications as well as career implications, right? Everyone can be a director or VP or a head of a department, let's say 5, maybe even 10 years before they otherwise would, because they took this risk and worked at a small startup. So like the career progression thing
cool.
is very real. So it's those kind of things, because again, we can't just hand people piles of money or spend on big trips or things like that. So what can we do? It's those kind of things.
That's awesome. Okay, here's a pretty intense question. We're winding down here, but here's an intense question. Knowing what you know now, would you have started this company back then?
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like I'm certainly not the first person to say this, but I would have thought second and third and fourth times about it. Like you don't know, that naivete of knowing nothing of a first-time founder is an asset, because I mean, if I had known how many terrible things would happen, I might have been a bit more gun shy about it. But no, I think you look back, I'm 32. Today's my birthday. I turned 32.
Oh, happy birthday. All right, right on, man. Episode on your birthday. Sweet.
Yeah. But would I know what I know now at age 32? Would I have the know-how, the skills, the perspective, the network? Like not even close, like not even in the same galaxy. Whether or not we're successful, that's true. So the question more so is just like, do I have a thick enough skin, and do I want to put myself through the ringer? But I like that kind of stuff. I like being hard on myself. So I'd say emphatic yes.
That's a great answer, because I asked another gentleman who you know, but I won't mention on the podcast, but he even mentioned, he's very forthright about it. He said, no, I would not have started it. So
well, that's like, what at the end of that book I told you about, Mission in a Bottle by the Honest Tea guys. At the end of it, they asked that question to themselves. They're like,
wow.
we've thought about this, and they said no. I think Seth Goldman said no.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Of course, the guy sold, I think, for a couple $100 million to Coca-Cola, but he's like, no, I wouldn't. Which is just such a fascinating perspective. Yeah, there's no two ways about it. It's an incredibly grueling process. It's just a question of, I think you have to be a little bit masochistic, how you have to like hardship to a degree, which 99% of people don't.
Yeah, I've pivoted 6 times in my life, and 3 of them were with 2 young children. And, it's all on me. It was literally all on me. Like all eyes were looking at me. And it's like, okay, buddy, what are you going to do now? And I was like, oh shit. So, you do it, and that's, I think it takes a unique individual to have that, right? That, I've got the word relentless tattooed on my body. It is literally, it's permanently on my body, right? You probably can't see it, but it's right there.
Yeah.
And that word is a big, big word for me, and anybody who knows me knows that's Michael. That's who he is. So, you have to have that relentless, just no quit attitude. I talk about that in my book, this yellow book right there. I talk about that a lot, just that pit bull attitude of just, there's no such thing as failure unless you quit, right? Yeah. You just you learn and keep going. And I think it's really the upper, I don't want to say 1%, because I don't know statistically if that's correct, but it's a small percent of the population that has that it factor, that like you said, the thick skin, to go grueling, that just grind, and I think for me, I just live off it, right? It's kind of that, almost like an adrenaline junkie kind of, right? Where I wake up and look in the mirror and it's on me, and it's still on me, right? It's, I'm in a different phase of my life now, but I would have it no other way. I would not want to have anybody else have control over my life ever. And, my last real job, I was 21 years old and I'm 59. So do the math on how many years I've worked for myself, right? So,
well, I think once you get a taste of that, like working for yourself, no matter how hard it is, it's really hard to go back. Like hard.
It's very, very, well, I think a lot of people now are leaving the corporate world, but they're delusional. A lot of people think, I'll make money online. I'm going to get online. I'm going to do this. Joe is doing that. My neighbor's doing this. They're selling on eBay, whatever. And I think a lot of them don't really have it. And they quickly put their tail between their legs and go right back to a job. Because they're just like, whoa.
Because it's not better. It's like, I think it's better in a weird way. It's not more fun. It's actually a lot less fun. You don't work less. You actually work a lot more.
You do.
There's all these things that, objectively speaking, are pretty terrible about it. But again, that's why I say you have to like, just the autonomy and the working for yourself thing is so important that it supersedes all of those things.
I agree.
But doesn't for most people. So you have to have that perspective. This is greater than all of this crap I'm going to put up with.
Well, I'm sure you've heard this from friends of yours and family. My whole entire life, I've had people, good friends of mine, even say, I wish I could be like you, the risk taker, just not afraid of putting yourself out there. I've heard that hundreds of times in my lifetime, right? Of people just go, God, I can't do what you do. How do you do it? Blah, 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 and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't know any other way to live my life. Right.
Once you start, it gets easy. Yeah. That's why everyone says just start. Like it's true. Yeah. Once you start, it's like anything, like posting on LinkedIn or posting on Twitter. it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit nerve-wracking and embarrassing. And then you do 2 times and then 3 times. And then by the 5th time, it's not weird at all. Why wouldn't you do it? It's like you're in a totally different headspace. So yeah, it's all muscle memory.
Yeah, LinkedIn is an amazing platform. I'm spending more and more time on LinkedIn. It's funny. I will say this before we wind it down. I feel like when COVID hit, I was on Instagram. I'm a marketer, right? So I'm on all the platforms, but I was on Instagram, and Instagram I got tired of because I really felt like it brought me no value. Everybody's just shooting selfies. That's all it is just, and I was following fitness, probably like you, very similar. Fitness people, nutrition people, health people. How many times can you take a picture of yourself and post it on Instagram? My God. So I kind of got over it. But when COVID hit, I feel like some of the Instagram folk came right over to LinkedIn. Yeah. And now you see LinkedIn as a lot of selfies, right?
Yeah, I know. It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. But you know what's interesting? It catches people's attention. I do it a little bit, but I don't do it from a thirsty standpoint of like, hey, look at me, whatever. Like, I got nothing like that. I try to make it relevant, but people are finding out that when you post pictures of yourself, you're being vulnerable, you're being authentic. Yeah. So as long as it isn't but there are women on there that I've had to block because you could tell they came right from Instagram and they're doing all the crap.
That's a really weird move.
Oh my God, it's
genuine
crazy.
Thirst trap on like
thirst trap.
It's like, what? Oh, that one I will never really understand. Although I guess it's like reinforced, and so.
Well, I think what you get is you get a lot of men, and I'm going to write a book for men over 50, by the way, because they're clueless. It's going to be a really cool book, but you get a lot of men that are thirsty and they feed into that. And that's what happens on Instagram. If a woman does a post and she gets 500 likes, she's going to be like, ooh, I like this. I feel desired. I feel wanted. And it feeds that person to do more of it. So on LinkedIn, same thing. If somebody posts a picture, typically a woman, because a lot of men don't do thirst trap pictures. Yeah. That would be pretty pathetic. But when the ladies do it and they get 500 dudes blowing up their post, that feeds them to continue to do it, right? So that's that weird thing on LinkedIn right now that I'm finding is, wow, I'm seeing this little taste of Instagram over on LinkedIn now, which is interesting to me. And now if a woman does too many posts, I delete her because I don't have time to just see all these selfies like that, right? But that's a whole nother topic. So with that being said, my last question to you is, since the name of the show is Dominate Your Market, can you give our listeners a strategy that's working for you right now to gain market share? Now, I know you're in the food market, but what strategy is working for you? Are you using influencers? What are you doing right now that's working?
Affiliates. I've heard to pick one kind of random one for whatever reason that comes top of mind. I mean, everyone's solving for the same LTV to CAC ratio problem. And it's gotten harder and harder with iOS 14 and all that. Yeah. So, how do you acquire customers cheaper? Affiliates is a great way. And so, we use this. It was called Dovetail, and then I think Shopify bought it. And now it's Shopify Collaborators, I think is what it's called. But it's basically a platform where, we can aggregate this huge group of affiliates, and great for them because we give them a really generous cut, and it's great for us because they acquire customers in a cash flow positive way for us. And it's great. I think it's like scale that to infinity if you can. So that has been working well. And so that I'll give you one digital example, one brick and mortar example. And then on the brick and mortar side, we're going to invest in building out a demo team. So this Costco Roadshow was a huge eye opener for us because we were moving like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per store per day of product.
That's incredible. Wow. Jeez.
And just demoing via sampling, talking to people, selling them packs. So that was a huge aha moment for us, was in the club channel. Could we feasibly build out this huge team of people and like demo, because the unit economics work. Like let's say Sprouts, not so much because you're selling a bar, 2 bars.
Yeah.
Whereas let's say Costco, you're selling 16 bars. So you can break even or make money on a demo day, which is like the holy grail. Because if you can do that, well, then just scale that till the cows come home. So, yeah, that was a major learning on, and we're going to invest in that on the brick and mortar side.
Yeah, well, the minute you said that, when you said you went into Costco, my brain was like, yep. I mean, because you're in front of so many people, and you're able to build a relationship very quickly because you're talking to people. You're not online, so the trust factor happens almost immediately because you know, clean cut guy, clean cut girl. You're talking about the bar. You're answering all their questions right there on the spot. God, I can't imagine if you went to did a roadshow in all the Costcos. Geez, I don't know if Costco, you do that across the country or not, but God, just that alone would be massive, right?
Some people do it, like Traeger grills, for example. They'll set up like a turf setup, like a tent, and have grills, and that is their business. They do roadshows everywhere. Less common on the food side, but yeah, I mean, it's like that roadshow is like sampling on steroids, and we'll probably go like the sampling route because we can scale it and make it cash flow positive. But yeah, we'll see. That'll be a really interesting learning, especially with labor so hard to find and aggregate and motivate. And so can we do that at scale? Who knows, but we're going to try.
I can't imagine you couldn't in every location get some young kids, right, that would say, yeah, I'll do it. You know, I mean, I don't know, I discussed it on the podcast, but I don't know where you'd find them, but just, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, right? I don't know, maybe you want older, has more knowledge about, they can talk about the bar more and ingredients and all that. I don't know, but I definitely think that for our listeners, getting in front of your target market, almost on a physical, like human basis, right? Like literally in front of them, even if you're a B2B, that could be a trade show, whatever. I think that's a really, really effective way to do it, as opposed to just sort of sitting in your offices on your computers, where there's no trust, there's nothing, right? You're just another company on the internet.
Absolutely. You can't replace human-to-human interaction.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, Will, thank you so much for being on the show. I so appreciate it. So if people want to find out about your bar, give us websites, give us all your contact information that you're comfortable with. So, and it'll be in the show notes on the website. We'll post it on LinkedIn, social media. So where can they find out about the bars?
Sure. So eatiqbar.com is our website. And then we're on Amazon, Walmart.com. We're in Walmart's, Kroger, Sprouts, Wegmans, Rite Aid. But yeah, we have a store locator on our website, so check that out. And then at @IQBAR is our handle across the board. Okay, so eatiqbar.com. Yep. Okay, and then they could look you up as well on LinkedIn if they wanted to. Will Nitze on LinkedIn. Nitze. Yep. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. You gave a lot of great information. I do appreciate you taking time. You didn't know me, and I reached out to you, and you were kind enough to do the podcast. So I do appreciate it. No, happy to do it. Thanks for having me. Awesome, bud.
You've just listened to the Dominate Your Market podcast with CEO, business consultant, and author Michael Peterson. Growth-minded CEOs hire Michael to explode their revenues, build an amazing company, and create a transformational mindset that encapsulates growth, success, and ultimately happiness. His book, Dominate Your Market, is creating quite a stir in the marketplace. Go to dominateyourmarketbook.com and get your first chapter free.